Are we live?
We are live.
I'm so excited. I've gone live before, but this is my first time actually going live with somebody else. So I'm just kind of like, yay, this is so cool. Let's see if this is going to work. Because I've actually seen a couple of your live videos, and I think the last one, there was some difficulty with everybody joining. So I was like, when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, I hope that doesn't happen to us.
Well, I'm so happy that you could join us.
I'm so happy that you asked, because it's, if for everybody, I'm sure we'll go over it, but you and I met, I think, right around this time, 3 years ago.
I know. I can't believe time flies.
Yeah, I'm like, we're going to have 4-year-olds coming up, which is like crazy. But
yeah, I know. Yeah. I can't believe they're going to be that old, but young still. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I got to catch them at the stage and press pause.
Hi everybody.
So I'm Rosaria, for people listening. And do you want to introduce yourself, Olga?
Yeah. Okay. So I am Dr. Olga Treko. I am a physical therapist that specializes in women's health and the pelvic floor. Hence my pelvic model right here in the corner, because I'm sure I'll mention a couple things on that. But I am a doctor of physical therapy. I've been practicing physical therapy for the last 7+ years. And I have a love for women's health and the pelvic floor and empowering women to be better versions of themselves, and, taking them through the journey of motherhood and health and kind of everything in between. And I just have this love for self-care. And it wasn't until I had my daughter in 2017 that I really understood what self-care really meant. And I remember being pregnant and saying to myself, I am not going to let myself go. I'm going to make myself a priority. And so many women and moms and parents and, make that goal and they don't stick to it for whatever reason. And I have found this amazing balance, and it has worked and it continues to work. And I love sharing it, and I love motivating others. So here I am, and I have this platform that I absolutely love, and everybody that kind of follows me along the way. So that's me. Yeah. So I'm a mom, I'm a professional, I'm a wife, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, and I love to keep others motivated. So
awesome. So tell us, you're telling us a little bit about why women aren't able to maintain those goals.
So before we jump into the questions, sorry for interrupting, before we jump into the questions, I actually had a goal for everybody that has joined us. I do pretty much every day, and I have been doing them for the last year, I do affirmation cards. This is just one of the boxes that I've used. I opened this one this year, and this one is by Casey Wiegand's Affirmation Cards for Women. So this is what I've been doing every day. So I figured, I actually haven't picked a card today, and I haven't picked one out. For that reason, I said, you know what? I was like, I'm going to pick it for you guys, so that way we can set some intentions.
Awesome.
We're going to set some intentions for today's live chat. So I've been doing these affirmation cards. I pick one out at random pretty much every morning, and it, in a weird way, it legit sets kind of the mood for the day. Now, so today, our card for tonight, okay, is, I know that I was made for something beautiful.
I love it.
Isn't that just wonderful? Okay, so tonight's affirmation card is, I know that I was made for something beautiful. You, everybody that's on here, you all were made for something beautiful. So I'll repeat that again later on. But what I usually do is, this is how I start my day, or end my night, technically. And then what I usually do too is I actually journal on it. I know it sounds silly, but first thing in the morning, if I pick a card, I'll either work out in the morning or I will journal with that card. If I don't get the chance to journal, if I don't get a chance to journal in the morning, I will then use the card to journal at night. So today's, for example, I promise you, right after we're done with this, I will actually write something in my journal regarding our talk and our conversation. But really the card just sets kind of the mood for my morning and my day. And sometimes if I don't journal until later on, it hits me that, oh my goodness, I actually lived that. So my card yesterday, I picked it out in the morning. It was something along the lines of making somebody's day beautiful. Like you were made to make somebody's day beautiful, or something along the lines like that. And I didn't journal until last night. And I realized that I had the opportunity twice throughout my day to really make somebody else's day. And I was like, oh my goodness, so I wrote that in my journal. So anyway, so I wanted to start this whole thing on an affirmation card. So off we go.
I love it. And do you know where we could find something like those affirmation cards?
So I can link them. When we post this and everything like that, there's affirmation cards pretty much everywhere. I've used two different sets. I used one for my workout. So I do an at-home fitness program through Beachbody. So I did that throughout my pregnancy. I did a bar program. And the bar program through Beachbody actually comes with affirmation cards for your workouts, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. This one, actually, like I said, I'll tag in one of my posts or something like that. I'll tag Casey Wiegans. She's fantastic. She's an artist. And she's designed all of these cards herself. So, but honestly, whatever, I mean, I'm sure if you go on Amazon, I'm sure if you go online, you can find affirmation cards pretty much everywhere. But part of kind of my self-care routine, how I keep myself motivated and going, is, again, picking a card and setting kind of the intention for the day, setting the goal throughout the day. So I can link these, like I said, because I'm absolutely obsessed with like designs and everything like that. I actually have saved a couple cards I think I'm going to frame because they just really meant a little bit more to me than others. But she's a wonderful artist, so I really like hers cards. But like I said, I'll link them and I'll share more about them. But yeah, so might start off with that.
That's awesome that you do that. And like the thing about the affirmation cards that you're talking about is it's almost like two things that you're doing for self-care. And I think anyone out there could start small, just doing the affirmation card, and then maybe throw in journaling if that's what they do, or read it a couple times a day. So there's so many things, and that's such an inspiring thing in itself, that you just have this one or these two things that go together.
Yeah, and I don't, and I know it's silly to say and everything like that, but you don't have to journal. You can literally just pick a card and read it throughout the day. And you know what? If you don't get the chance to pick a card on a specific day, that's fine. That's my big thing, and we can talk about it. And am I back?
Yes, we are. I didn't.
Am I back? Sorry. Okay. So here's another kind of, and I'm such a space cadet sometimes. Oh my goodness, my brain goes a lot faster than my thoughts Sunday. So what just happened was my phone actually shut off Instagram.
Oh, okay.
So part of my self-care routine, even though I have this platform on Facebook and this platform, especially on Instagram, I actually limit my time.
That's awesome.
So I really
your phone and do that.
So your phone, you can set time limits for every social media platform, and it will shut you off after you've reached that limit. So I love Instagram. It has been such a wonderful platform. I love everything about it, you know, as far as connecting with others and everything like that. But it also gives you this, you know, you can mindlessly scroll through Instagram for a half hour and you've completed nothing. So
Yeah.
I actually set a limit on myself to be intentional on what I do, who I communicate with, and what I'm actually doing on Instagram. So what just happened, I apologize, but my Instagram turned off because I
Well,
reached
we
my
just
limit.
experienced three of your self cares in how long has it been? In less than 15 minutes. So that's awesome.
So where were we? So I actually like wrote notes, guys. The last week that we've talked, that we've set the date, I've legit been writing notes because there's just so many things that I do throughout the day that I know others would benefit from.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Let me just ask you though, why is self care from your perspective so hard?
So hard.
Yeah.
I think that so one of the big things personally, and I see this what I do for a living, my 9 to 5 job as a physical therapist, as a women's health pelvic floor physical therapist, is I am there for patients that are choosing self-care.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a pelvic floor physical therapist, when I see patients coming to see me, I appreciate them so much because most of my patients are moms, they are
Mm-hmm.
women that have a million other things to do. And when there is something going on with their pelvic floor, they're choosing to take care of it because it's something that is not visible. So if your shoulder's hurting you, somebody can see that you can't lift something. If your hip is hurting you, if your knee's hurting you, you're not walking the right way. It's visual. So somebody can say, hey, you're walking funny. Like, do you realize that? Okay, or it's something that's visual. When it comes to the pelvic health and the pelvic floor, it's so many women suffer in silence because it's a taboo topic to talk about the fact that you're living in discomfort and you have to suffer in silence if you are peeing yourself every time that you pick your toddler up.
Yeah.
And you so
Any of the
for
guys that are tuned in right now, this is actual.
Yeah, sorry. Welcome to my page. Welcome to my page. If I make you feel comfortable, I've done my job. But so I have so many women. So that part of my self-care, my motivation that I have within me is because I have to be that way for my patients every single day. And the hard part about self-care is that people think self-care is taking time away from others. Self-care to some people is being selfish. Oh my goodness, Olga's going to go downstairs and work out. You know, what are her kids doing? She's taking time away from her husband. She's taking time away from her family. And honestly, you're actually not taking time away from them. You're taking time for yourself so you can be a better version for them. So part of my self-care routine is working out. I love working out. I enjoy it. It's a stress relief to me. It's my opportunity to take care of me. So when I work out, regardless of what time of day it is, I'm not taking anything away from my family. I'm being a better version for myself, a better version for my family. So a lot of times when people think about self-care, it's a struggle that us as moms deal with, especially because we feel like we're taking something away. And it's like, no, if we can just change a female's perspective, that when you take 10 minutes for yourself, is because you're taking that time to be a better version for your family.
Mm-hmm.
If I work out first thing in the morning, I'm going to have more energy. If I start my day with 10 minutes of coffee time and my book, I'm going to be in a better mindset throughout the day for my kids. We
Mm-hmm.
call it, we have mommy timeouts. If I've been home with the kids all day. So the other thing too is I have a 3.5-year-old and a 5-month-old. So it's the jumping from 1 to 2. It's like a struggle all on its all on its own, but that's a different topic. But if I'm home with the kids all day, my husband gets home, and I legit will say, "Mommy needs a timeout," and my daughter's like, "No, I'll come with you, mommy." I'm like, "No, like mommy's in timeout," and usually I'm very serious about it. And she knows it now. She's like, "Oh, she's like, mommy, time out." I'm like, "Yep, mommy's in time out." And I usually come down to the basement and I will set a timer on my phone. I legit will say 20 minutes. Nobody talk to me for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
You
you think
can't
that's bring
leave me.
yourself back down, right?
What is it?
To bring yourself back down for that
And
calm
I
level.
usually leave my cell phone away because maybe for somebody self-care means being on their cell phone by all
Yeah.
means. Go hide in the bathroom on your cell phone. Uh, but for me is reading. So that's part of self-care. I feel like I've changed a little bit of my mindset in the last like year and a half, and I've really have dove into reading. So I don't watch TV. And I really have figured out that reading to me is my stress reliever. If it's either reading a hard copy of my monthly book, or if I'm doing an audiobook, it's my chance to, it's part of self care. And I kind of tune out in that sense. And I'm able to just focus on what I'm doing. So, and less screen time. But again, I think the reason why, so going back to your question, the reason why self care is so hard is because people think that it has to be something so elaborate, and it doesn't. And people think
Mm-hmm.
that self care is selfish, and it's not. You're doing this to be a better version of yourself for others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's um, such a misperception, and it's part of our society too. And like you said, if we could just change that way of thinking into you're making a better version of yourself. In order to take care of other people, you need to take care of yourself. I
So
mean, whether or not
I have
you have healthy kids, you need to. And I absolutely adore your idea of mommy needs a timeout.
so I have an analogy that I use with my patients. Everybody has heard the analogy of um, the teapot analogy, I call it. So you don't, you can't have an empty teapot and
Yeah.
pour on, you can't pour tea to somebody else if your pot is empty. So self care is about taking time to fill your teapot so that you can give tea to others, take care of others. My other big
Yeah.
thing, the way that I kind of switch that analogy is, it's not just about filling your teapot, it's also making sure that that water in the teapot is actually hot. So think
Yes.
about that. A lot of times people say, "Oh, well, I'm doing this self care because I'm filling my teapot." And I'm like, "Okay, well, is that water in your teapot actually hot? Or are you filling the teapot, but the water is cold?" Nobody wants cold
Mhm.
tea. I mean, unless you like iced tea, by all means, but I like my tea hot. So it's that
I
concept
love
that
that you said that.
it's not just about filling your teapot, it's making sure that you fill it with the right things, and making
Yeah,
sure that
absolutely.
that water in your teapot is actually boiling and hot, because it's going to make others want to come to you. It's going to make others want that hot water that you're serving. But I always use
Yeah,
that analogy
absolutely.
because
I mean, like, you can't fill your self care time with chores. that will be a cold teapot.
So
Right? Is
no,
that essentially what you're
self-care is
saying? If
not
someone's
going
like,
to
oh,
Target.
I'm doing laundry. Hmm?
Self-care is not going to Target.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's not doing chores. It's definitely something that's taking you out of where you are mentally, and then placing you somewhere to actually give you kind of a break. But so that's the hardest thing, you think, is that people take it as, oh, I'm being selfish.
I really do. I really truly believe personally, and just with my experience and the women that I treat on a daily basis, is that I really think that women feel that if they take the time for themselves, is that they're selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I could like shake everybody and realize that you're not being selfish. You
Mm-hmm.
are being a better version of you by taking care of you. So, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've heard comments, from others regarding, kind of what I do. And they're like, oh, well, I'm sure Olga has all the time in the world. And it's like, no, I actually prioritize my time so I can have these things. When I write my schedule out, I write it so I schedule these specific times throughout the day that I can carve this 10 minutes, carve this 20 minutes for myself. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the other thing too is that everybody thinks that self-care is getting a pedicure, getting a facial, getting a massage, all these like fancy things. And it doesn't have to be. Like I said, if you take 10 minutes in the morning and do an affirmation card and set your mind on a positive note, that's self-care.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And what about when you travel? Because do you take these affirmation cards with you?
I
What do you do?
So one of the things that I actually do, it's funny because I actually have my diffuser going on right now. I would say in the last 3 years now, I've changed. I don't have candles at home. I'm all about that clean, young living, essential oils, dorky, whatever you want to call it. I don't use perfume. I realize that why spray myself with chemicals in that sense. So what is it?
No, I was
Oh,
like, yeah.
so when I travel, I don't bring affirmation cards, but part of my self care is making sure that when I travel, I bring a little piece of home with me in that sense. So, for example, I will travel with a diffuser. I will travel with my essential oil rollers. So, right now, I'm actually diffusing Sacred Mountain, which is my meditation oil.
Mm-hmm.
I had oils that I delivered with. I meditated throughout my pregnancy, which I had in my labor and delivery room.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so to me, when it comes to traveling, that self care is a little bit different. So to me, self care when traveling is bringing that smell, bringing that scent of calmness that I have at home when I travel. I travel with a roller called Valor. So anytime that I'm feeling anxious, I actually will roll it. If I'm at work and a patient just took every ounce of energy out of me, because I do treat some tough cases, I will roll a little bit of Valor on me to give me that boost. So
Mm-hmm.
to me, certain smells do that for me. And again, so when traveling with self care, it's usually comes down to essential oils. I have a little packet of rollers that I use when I travel. And my husband and I are pretty big travelers, so I brought my diffuser and my rollers when we traveled, and we've gone to Europe and everything like that. With my rollers, my essential oils in my backpack. My daughter won't go to bed if she doesn't have her essential oil rollers because again, self care.
Yeah. No, I love the idea that you bring something that home is always like this sacred area for a lot of people, and to kind of bring that to wherever you are. And for caregivers, I mean, that kind of translates to making maybe a hospital room a little
Mhm.
more homier, or bringing something with like the scent that you were
Yeah.
talking about. Sometimes scents are not good depending on what a person has, but that is that's a fantastic
Senses,
bring that
one of the
back.
big thing, yeah, one of the big things with senses is that it can trigger. So whatever you, like I said, I used a specific scent when I was meditating when I was pregnant with my son, and it. I remember as soon as I went into my labor and delivery room, is that's what I did first. I like told my husband, I was like, okay, I'm like, we're here. Let's get the diffuser going, you know, because to me that was a calming piece. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're in hospital rooms, if you're in environments that are new to you as a caregiver, if you need that specific smell, that sense to trigger home, that sense to give you that calmness, that's self-care.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to bring a specific roller and go to the bathroom in a new hotel room, in in a new office, and you need to just smell it to bring you
Mm-hmm.
back down to that calming state,
Yeah.
self-care. You're taking
Mm-hmm.
that 2 seconds. I remember I went through a tough period, um, right after I got married, before I moved to central Massachusetts. And I used to see a Reiki person, and she had made me a bottle of distilled water, rosemary and lavender, and she
Ooh.
would spray it. She would spray it as soon as I entered the room for Reiki to be performed. And when I left her, because I moved away from Boston and everything like that, she actually gave me that bottle, and to this day, I actually don't know where the bottle is right now. But up until like maybe a year ago, I still would travel with that bottle. Because if I walked into a space that I did not feel the energy was right, I would spray that, and it would bring me back to remembering me being in the room with her.
Mm-hmm.
So again, little things like that. If a certain smell triggers a calmness to you, that's self care.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting to me because when you said, "Oh, the pedicure's this, that," and that's how I was always thinking. I knew the journal and yoga and some other basic things, but what you're bringing up to here is new. I mean, the idea of the affirmation card, journaling off of that, setting time limits for your um, Instagram and whatnot. And how much time do you spend a day?
So I usually dedicate about an hour a day to Instagram.
Ooh, you are good.
So
My
usually,
limit's
I
like
mean,
two or three.
what is it?
I said I think my limit's two or three.
So that doesn't mean that I don't. So time out for a second, because I'm not a saint by all that means. But what that means that it just shuts off. If I have something to do on Instagram, then I will give myself another 15 minutes. So I have a timer. I have a timer that says, okay, an hour is up on Instagram for the day with no restrictions. And then you have to then ask to be, okay, give me another 15 minutes, Instagram. Okay. But that is me being intentional. That's me being like, okay, I have 15 minutes, because then, but next time it'll shut off after 15 minutes again. And I have to re ask that. But once the thought process is interrupted, then
Mm-hmm.
you're like, oh, okay, well, it turned off. Okay, well, I can put my phone away. And next thing you know, you're forgetting because there's no notifications, there's no push buttons, there's nothing that you see. So then
You
next
have
time,
that
the
sense
next
of mindfulness. You like mindfulness.
Mindfulness. So one of the things that I tell my patients is when I'm done treating you as a physical therapist, if you can be more mindful and more aware of your pelvic floor and your pelvic floor symptoms, then I have achieved one of my goals. So mindfulness and awareness are so key in so many aspects of self-care and treatment that I perform with my patients. Mindfulness and awareness. So again, I'm mindful that wait a second, yes, I'm going to go on Instagram, but why am I going to go on Instagram? Oh, because I have 15 minutes where my kid is sleeping, or you know what, I'm going to just quickly check what everybody's doing. But if Instagram is turned off, I'm not thinking about it because I have a million other things to do.
Yeah.
But if there's a push notification coming to me, I'm like, oh, let me check. And then that's 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, and all of a sudden, okay, dinner still needs to get done. the kids still need to go to bed, kind of thing. So mindfulness and awareness are so key to self-care.
Yeah, it's huge in terms of parenting these days. They've had so many articles about parents, the battle between the child versus the cell phone is resulting in bad behaviors because the child will do anything or exhibit bad behaviors to get attention from the parent who's absorbed into the phone.
It
So
it breaks my
it's
heart.
sad when I've seen it, like where a child is off playing and the parents all in their zone.
And I'm guilty. Trust me, I'm right there. It breaks my heart when my daughter comes up to me and says, Mommy, no phone.
Yeah.
And I literally just want to crawl and be like, oh my God, I can't believe this. But she literally will say that.
Yeah.
So then and then the other thing too, what I've done great with, I love my Apple Watch, for example, because if it's something truly important, it'll come through my Apple Watch and I'll take a second. But then my daughter has learned that if I'm looking at my watch, that's connected. So she'll be like, Mommy, she's like, no watch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, like what kind of parent am I? But again, it is the society that we live in. It's just being mindful and aware of some of your actions and how it impacts and how it limits. So for example, my workout routine right now is 20 minutes long. I know for a fact, okay, I can pull anybody, that's watching this. I bet you have spent 20 consecutive minutes today, at least once, on social media, on some kind of social media platform. That's 20 minutes. And what have you accomplished out of that? For others, they legit say, you know what, I like just scrolling. And I'm like, okay, but then don't use social media as an excuse to not do something else.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's my other big thing is that self-care is limited by excuses.
Absolutely.
So if you're like, oh, I want to work out, but you just spend 20 minutes on Instagram, well, in your 20 minutes that I spent on Instagram, I actually worked out. I actually burned the whatever 120 calories that I burned today, okay? But I got my heart rate up. In that 20 minutes that you were just scrolling, okay, I went for a walk. So it's one thing if somebody says, I'm happy with the way that I am and I don't mind just scrolling, okay? But then you get somebody that says, oh, but I wish I could do this and I wish I could read. I have a couple of coworkers at work, love them so much, but that was the conversation the other day at lunch. They were saying, I wish I could read. And I'm like, I have 2 kids and I read. What makes me any more different than you that doesn't have children? They're like, well, we just scroll through Instagram. I'm like, okay, well, Instagram then is an excuse. Social media is an excuse. If you carve out the time to read, 20 minutes at night,
Mm-hmm.
instead of being on your phone, well, you just read for 20 minutes. So a lot of times self-care ends up being an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. No, I understand.
can you tell that I'm really passionate about this?
No, I'm happy you have a passion about this, because I think it's really important for people to hear that everything you've said, that it isn't selfish, that you can't make excuses if you're doing other things, that you need to be mindful, that um, carving out the 20 minutes, it can be easy and free. You can go print out those cards online or buy fancy ones like you. You can journal about those cards, or it can just be waking up and using the affirmation cards. So, I mean, you've given so much information, and it's important to have people like you that come in and motivate others. You're so motivated. I'm motivated by you to do the daily affirmation cards. I like that.
No, but the other thing too is I'm self-motivated. I do it because it makes me feel good, but I also love motivating others because that's how I stay motivated. Mm-hmm. So that's something, when a patient leaves my office and they say, oh my goodness, I learned something new, I feel more empowered to take care of myself, that gives me that boost of energy that I need, to get me to the next patient, to motivate and educate and empower the next female that walks through my door. And it's just like this cycle. If you can motivate one person and they're appreciative of it, then you get that a little boost of energy. And that's just kind of how the circle of life and the circle of my day kind of goes. If I start my morning with an affirmation card, and if I check in with my accountability group that, hey, you know what? I did a workout. I'm going to motivate you to do your workout. And then they check in with me and they've done their workout and they feel energized and they feel motivated. And all of a sudden it's just this circle and this cycle that just keeps going. And it's that positive cycle. I'm a huge believer, that's the other thing too, is of energies. You have the energy that you let out is the energy that you will receive. Mm-hmm. So if I'm positive, even when I am exhausted, mentally and physically, even if I am not feeling very positive myself, if I come on this platform and am positive for others, that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
So that's
a reflection of yourself.
And if there's anybody that makes you feel any less, guess what? It's an unfollow button. It's a don't text them. Don't call them. Yeah. I'm at that age now that I'm just kind of like, if your energy is not what I'm looking for.
Yeah. If we're not vibing.
No, please. No, and it's honestly like why would you give your energy to somebody that doesn't appreciate your energy?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm having a technical difficulty. I apologize.
I can't see any questions. I don't know if any questions have come up. Can you see questions?
Yes, I can see everything.
Okay, good.
One question did come up, and that's why I asked you, what is your time limit? So you had answered that. 1 hour. That's
1 hour, and then on many, 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 many occasions, a 15-minute block here and a 15-minute block there.
So it's kind of like a parent. You're like, please, and you have to press 15 more.
Yeah, and I've shared that with so many people. My sister, who's big on this platform too, on Instagram, she has the same thing, and she's like, I have to ask Instagram for another 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. But it's a time limit.
Is it right?
My sister does the same thing. She's like, I have to ask Instagram for another 15 minutes.
Yeah. It also says if you want 1 minute more too, right?
Yes, but that 1 minute only has that option only once.
Oh,
I tried
really?
it. Oh yeah, it's only that option is only one.
You know the system too well.
Yeah, because I can manipulate the system. Trust me. I know.
You
I
have
have.
self-care right in your hands right now. That's a big one. Water. If you can drink a jug of water, they actually sell those now. Um,
This one was a gift from my aunt. It had vegetables in it, and I
oh,
washed
cool.
it. I washed it, and I'm just obsessed with it. So I'm just like, my husband's like, isn't that a little too big for you? I'm like, no, because I'm like, I think there's like, I don't
Oh,
even
someone
know.
asked a question.
Yeah.
How long have you been practicing this philosophy of self-care and awareness and motivation and
I would say, to some degree, I've always had it in me. Um, but I feel like the first, actually, I'm going to say about 4 years. I
wow.
really, truly believe. Right about when I was pregnant with my daughter, I really started taking better care of myself. I knew that a, I wanted to be a specific version of myself when I was pregnant with my daughter. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm not going to let myself go. I'm going to start these habits now.
Mm-hmm.
Habits now. So then when I do have my daughter, when I do have a newborn and a baby and a toddler running around, that I'm not going to make excuses for myself. And it really started with working out. Um, and I would bring my daughter downstairs, and it's, if you follow me, I bring both of my kids with workouts. My daughter knows that this space that we're in right now, it's my workout space. I have different stations for my kids so they can play
That's
and
awesome.
not bother me. My daughter is my little cheerleader, and even with my 5 month old now, I will set him up. He has two stations right now here. So if he cries at one, I can just jump him over
Mm-hmm.
to the other one. So,
That's so funny.
to answer the question, about 4 years, I really would. A lot of what I do and who I am, it probably has always kind of been inside of me, as an adult. But my daughter really lit a fire in me. And even my specialty in women's health and pelvic floor and treating my mommies and my women at the clinic really came forward. I've always, as a physical therapist, I've treated, pretty much everything. But it's been about 4 years that I've truly devoted my practice to women's health, pelvic health, the pelvic floor, physical therapy. And it was because, again, there was just something, my daughter just set a fire in me. I had a great pregnancy with her. I had a pretty good delivery. Questionable on that a little bit. I had a good postpartum recovery, and I wondered to myself, I'm like, why did I have these three things go a certain way? And part of it was my knowledge, part of it was my passion to continue to take care of myself. And again, I continue to follow that even with this. I think I was stricter with this pregnancy, with self-care. I
Yeah.
really took, oh man, I took the time. I was like, especially with a toddler, I was like, it's mommy time now. My daughter.
I don't know how you did it because I was looking at your profile and you had pictures on your Instagram of you doing all these workouts or little videos, and I was said, oh my gosh, she is just, this is so motivational. I need to get up and go do things. Now I just want everybody that's tuned in or listens to this after and hears the recording, um, I need to start doing some of these things so I'm not sitting here as the preacher. She is.
But the other, I always
You
joke around with people,
are,
and
seriously, you're motivating me. You really are
uh,
to like limit.
that's a good thing.
First off,
Isn't that what you
to
got? Isn't this
limit
what you
my
asked me to
hours
come here
from
for?
3 to 2.
What is it?
What? I said I want to limit my hours. I can't go to 1, but from 3 to 2, and then I want to do the daily affirmation cards.
You
That's
should.
great.
You should. I'm telling you, it's a whole different mindset.
Yeah.
Just notice,
Absolutely.
you don't even have to journal on them. Just pick up that card first thing in the morning and then pick up the card later in the afternoon at any point, and kind of notice of what it triggers. What kind of emotions does it trigger? It's always, most affirmation cards are obviously positive, so it's going to trigger a positive, thought process, but try it out. The other thing too, remember, I do fitness for a living. So I always tell my patients, I'm motivated because I literally do it for a living. When a patient comes in, into my office, they're there for specific reasons. So a lot of times people are like, "How do you do it?" I'm like, "I do it for a living."
Yeah,
How do you
you get
stay so
doctorate
fit?
for fun, you know.
What is it?
I said you didn't get your doctorate in it for just fun, whatever.
I actually something I have students. I actually have a lot of observational students that I take in. If it's medical
Oh,
students, physician assistants, nurse practitioners, PT students, just to observe and see what I do in the clinic and everything like that. Especially with my specialty in the pelvic floor. And I always say, I'm like, I would never go back to PT school. Like, you couldn't pay me enough money to do PT school all over again. It's just brutal.
yeah. Once is enough. It's a lot.
Mhm.
It's a lot of work. I mean, for me, for social work, I never have done the training that you've done, but all these things are fantastic. Is there any final things that you want to add in?
So I did want to finish with something.
Okay.
Um, so, um, so whenever you feel like you're ready, there's no more questions and everything like that. Um, yeah, I did have something in mind for us to finish on. So whenever you feel like you're ready and there's no more questions, I think we can finish with a little breath work.
Okay. I think someone just asked, what exercise do you recommend for short periods? I think like periods of time.
Ooh, breathing. We're gonna do that.
Oh,
I
nice.
know, and people are like, no, that we like ask for a specific exercise, and I'm like, yeah. When you come to see me in the clinic, breathing is an exercise. If you
I
can't
love it.
breathe, if you can't breathe correctly, you're doing something wrong. So I actually did. I told myself, you know what? I'm going to this live session with start this live session with the affirmation card and finish this live session with breathing, because if you don't have time to do the affirmation cards, if you don't have time to exercise, if you don't have time to read, if you don't have time to journal, if you don't have time to go outside and go for a walk, I promise you this. I'm looking at everybody. You have time to breathe. If you do it correctly, you're breathing. Trust me. That's not an excuse. You can't use that as an excuse. So if you take 5 minutes, a minute, to just breathe and understand how important your breathing is to the rest of your body, to the rest of your system, you've already done self-care.
That's so cool. I haven't thought
So,
about it.
so the affirmation card, okay?
Yes.
I know that I was made for something beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for allowing me to share my passion for self-care, because this is absolutely, self-care is beautiful, because each one of us is beautiful
Mm-hmm.
inside and out. So as far as
Absolutely.
breathing goes,
Are you going to show us the breathing
I
exercise?
am. I am.
Okay.
So this is what I usually. So this is what I usually talk about with my patients in the clinic. Your diaphragm, which is your breathing muscle, is directly connected to your pelvic floor, which is what I treat every single day. I live and breathe the pelvic floor, but that's a different story. So breathing, okay? When you take a deep breath in, okay, your ribs expand, Okay? Your belly softens, your pelvic floor lets go. Okay? When you breathe out, okay, your ribs, you're gonna feel, okay, your ribs recoil as you breathe out, okay? Your abdomen contract and your pelvic floor contracts. So the pattern that I usually use for my patients is a 4-second breath in, 2-second hold, and a 6-second release. So a deep breath in. And the reason why I have my hands, okay, at my rib cage is that tactile feedback calms you down. Mm-hmm. Feel what's actually happening in your ribcage. So a lot of people say, you know, self-care, part of self-care is understanding how to breathe, mm-hmm. okay? But when you actually feel that expansion and that recoil, it actually brings your mind in a calmer state.
Yeah.
So a deep breath in for a count of 4. A hold, and a shh. A breath in. And an out. Okay? With each breath in, feel what's actually happening at your rib cage. Feel that expansion through the rib cage. Feel the release of your pelvic floor. Feel the release of your abdomen. Mm-hmm. And when you take a deep breath out, okay, mm-hmm. I like to make the shh sound because that's what I do with my patients. But when you're breathing out, make it slow, make it long. Feel that recoil of the rib cage. Feel the abdomen and the pelvic floor contract, and then breathe out, okay, with a shh. So, breathing. See, we started with an affirmation, we're ending with breathing, because if you can focus, we breathe, we need to breathe to live, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have time for self-care, you at least have time to breathe.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that. And you're right.
Sorry this was so long.
I swear, I'm going to implement some of these, and you will see it on my, what do you call them? Timelines? Not timelines.
You're going to tag me. I want to see a tag at least once. If you do any of the self-care that I talked about, okay, mm-hmm. make sure that you tag me, because I love seeing when others, it's so silly, but it gives me, okay, so if I motivated you, here's the thing, if I motivated you to be a better version of yourself, tag me, because that motivates me, and then we go in this full circle. I motivate you, you motivate me, and we're all happy.
Yeah, I love it.
And cheers with water.
Yeah, cheers. I didn't bring my water, but it's next door. I have water before I go to bed. Anyways, I think you're getting lots of hearts. People are saying thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you
my
so
goodness.
much for all your time. Yeah, thank you so much for coming, and thank you everybody for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night.